Hey, come on in. Let's go talk about pocket knives.
Beautiful little Queen Congress with a broken blade. This was damaged at the factory. It had to have been because the knife is factory unfinished. We see we've got the the smooth pins here, the little waffle pattern there where they were stamped, and beautiful blades on this one. Now the blades are marked with PH-D2. The PH is for Peter's Heat Treat, which is a certain heat treatment they started doing after 2002, I think, with the D2 steel. Now this knife for the broken blade really should have a sheep's foot blade, but he found a spear point that he wants put in there. It should fit. It looks similar. It is the same year range with the Queen logo, PH with a D2 or Delta 2. So it'll make it for a very unique knife, but it's unfinished. Again, the knife has sharp corners there at the transitions. It was never sanded or did the finish sanding on it. So there'll be a little work to do with that one, but I think it'll make a beautiful knife. After filming the first half of this knife repair, my camera's memory card got stuck in the card reader and it broke in half when I tried to remove it. So I lost all of the footage from the camera that looked straight down on the knife from overhead. Now, I obtained a new memory card and completed the knife another day, but I apologize that I don't have good close-up video of the first half of this knife repair. I'll use the razor blade vise and dead blow hammer to cut the pivot pins for this blade. I'm hoping to be able to remove the pins from the bolsters and not have to disassemble the knife any further. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't, but I think it's worth a shot. I'm trying to gently pry the layers far enough apart to remove the two blades, but not far enough to damage the handles or the liners. This replacement blade feels thicker than the original, so I'm taking a moment to measure them with my calipers. I cannot read the results at this camera angle, but if memory serves me correctly, the broken blade is 0.089 inches thick, and the new blade is about 0.117 inches thick. Now, this camera is on a new mount that I tried out, and it moves terribly, so I apologize for that. I've wrapped this blade with painter's tape to avoid scratching the blade up as I sand the tang thinner. The rest of the blade is the perfect thickness, but the tang is almost 30 thousandths of an inch too thick to fit into the knife. I only want to sand off the back side of the blade tang, as I don't want to erase the tang stamp on the front. Now, I'm hoping this does not make the knife blade too far off-centered to fit properly. These Congress knives, it's a very tight fit to get any blade in there right. I'm using a 60 grit belt, and that's the lowest grit that I have, but it takes me so much longer than I expected, and later, when I move up to a 120 grit belt, it grinds away the metal much faster. So this belt that I'm using might have been designed for wood and not metal. I've sped up the video very fast, as it's nothing more than me sanding this blade tang for over 30 minutes. Comparing the blades now, they look compatible. Once I had that blade near the correct thickness, I had progressed up through several different grits of belts and finally polished the tang. It matches the look of the knife fairly well, though the new blade does not have a half stop. So now I'll remove the rest of the pivot pin that I cut so that we can do a test fit of the blade to see how it's going to fit into the knife. This pin was a tight fit in the knife, so I'll really take my time grinding and drilling until I can drive it out.
And it's time to do a test fit. Now, again, I'm using the spring jack on the small vise to temporarily decompress the spring tension so that I can insert the blades and the pivot pin by hand. My spring jack is sitting at a slight angle, which has one spring pushed up farther than the other. So I'm having to adjust the tension until everything lines up and I can push that pin on through. Now, my greatest fear in grinding away on one side of the blade tang was that it might cause the blade to sit at an angle in the blade well. There's just little enough room for all four blades in a Congress knife, and the angles have to be pretty close to perfect or the blades will try to close on top of one another. But surprisingly, this one sits straight. I really had trouble believing it. It stands very proud right now, but I can adjust that later. It looks like this blade is going to work. As I noted before, the blade stands up very proud, and usually I will file the kick down by hand to let the blade sit deeper into the blade well. But this one is so severe that I'll use the sander instead. Now sometimes it's very difficult to sand the kick without accidentally hitting the edge of the blade or the knife handle against the belt as I work, so I'll remove the blade from the knife to prevent that. Well, I got it close, but it needs a little bit more material removed, so I'll use a file to fine-tune it. The original blade had half stops. You know, that's where the blade will stop when it's halfway open or halfway closed. This new blade does not have that, and I find that the snap is strong enough and the action smooth enough that it's a little bit scary without that half stop. So I'm going to grind away the end of the tang to add this feature. It's just really a flat spot on the end of the tang, and it only takes a few seconds to complete. Wow, everything looks good to me, so let's peen this knife together. All right, I'm back to having overhead shots again. You see, I had stopped recording for the day after I peened that pen, then went home, broke the memory card, and you know that story. So here I'm back on another day, new memory card, and I have close-up footage from here on out in the video. So knowing that, let's smooth these bolsters. Now I'm switching from the 180 grit belt to the 400 grit. Now that the bolsters are finished, I've switched back over to that 120 grit belt to begin sanding the handle scales. I know, should have done it in one step. I wasn't thinking that far ahead. Now, these handles were never finished from the factory, and it's in the original letter, Brad, the owner, thought that they might be made of wood. They definitely look dull and uninspiring in that unfinished state. But I've worked with this type of handle material before, and I knew that it was dyed bone. And I expect that they will look much nicer once we get them shaped and fit to the knife and reveal what lies underneath that dull exterior layer. So I'll begin by rounding out those hard square edges along the top and the bottom of each scale. I'm taking my time and trying to keep everything smooth and even. After sanding these bone handles, the beauty within is revealed, and polishing them will almost make them seem to shine with their own inner light. Oh, I love seeing a knife go from boring to beautiful. You know, the Lord God loves to reveal the beauty in each of us as well. Revelation 3 and 5 says, "He who overcomes shall be clothed in white garments." Now that just imagine glowing with a white light, pure and holy when you read that, shall be clothed in white garments, and I will not blot out his name from the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. Folks, our desire to restore things is just a pale reflection of what God the Father does through his only Son, Jesus. Those who have faith in him will be restored. We will be renewed. We will be made pure, and we will be filled with the holy light, and we will be God's pride and joy for all eternity. If he hasn't already, he wants to clean you up too. He wants to restore you, and he wants to show you off in front of everybody. Hey YouTube, all right, I want to show you how this one turned out when I was finished with it. It is a gorgeous knife. Now here is the original sheep's foot blade, and here is the spear point that we put in it. When you have them both up like that, you can definitely see a huge difference in them, but I think it gives the knife a lot of character, even though a Congress is supposed to have the sheep's foot blade. Again, it gives it a lot of character. Really looks good on the knife. The amber carved stagged bone handles is absolutely gorgeous. There were few people who did that better than Queen. They just had some absolutely gorgeous handle materials. The one flaw that I could not get out of the knife is my pivot pin. It shows. Now, I received some very good advice from one of my viewers about using brake clean, spraying that pivot pin out good with it, repinning it, and sanding it some more, and it looks a lot better after that. I could not get rid of that little circle around it entirely, so I think it perhaps my pin was slightly too small, or maybe I got into the bolster a little bit when I was drilling the pins out. I definitely tried not to. So if there's a fault there, it's mine. But it did look much worse until I used that advice that one of my viewers gave me, and that really did help. So thank you for that. But yeah, the amber carved stag bone just makes for a gorgeous handle. I love how that knife turned out. It's a good size. You know, I like a larger knife, and that one definitely is a bit larger. I'm hoping Brad will be very happy with it. Definitely sanding the amber carved stagged bone really brings out the color in it. And if you could see it out in the sunlight, which we don't have much of today, it's been kind of dreary and rainy, you would see how that bone glows out in the light. Much more so than what you can see here under indoor lighting. But I'm enchanted by that knife. I wish it were mine, because he definitely knows how to pick them out. That's a gorgeous one. I pray that you have a wonderful week this week. Thank you for watching this show. So may God bless each and every one of you. Have a great day. Until next time, goodbye.